Are you interested in politics? Are rules and laws important to you? Then a career in the government and public administration cluster may interest you. Government and public administration workers help pass and enforce the law. You could work in national, state, or local government. You will find almost every type of occupation within the government, including some jobs that are only found within government. For example, you might inspect new or remodeled buildings for safety, help people file the paperwork for a marriage license, or create proposals for urban development. Careers include tax collectors, municipal clerks, military, and postal service workers. There are almost 50 careers across 7 career pathways in the government and public administration clusters. These pathways include governance, national security, foreign service, planning, revenue and taxation, regulation, public management, and administration.
What judges do just in general, we hear criminal and civil matters. So if someone is charged with a crime, we would hear those types of cases in criminal court. And if someone just has a civil matter, such as a divorce or a personal injury case or something that's basically not a criminal matter, we hear those matters as well. When you live in a smaller county like we live, you have to be able to do all of those things. Some of the larger counties, they just kind of focus on one specific area, and they do that all day long, every day. Basically, I grew up in a family where my parents were foster parents from the time I was 2 until I was 14 years old. And I think that really had a huge impact on me to see that other people don't come from the same kind of families that I came from. Even though my family was a lower middle class family, my dad worked at the stove foundry in Mount Vernon, and then he later worked at the post office. My mother did not finish high school, and so my mother worked as a cook at a grade school, but she got involved with DCFS being a homemaker. And that allowed me to see that there are a lot of people who don't come from a family like mine that's very supportive and helpful and encourages you to do better, to better yourself all of the time. And it made a big impact on me about what kind of career I wanted to do. Well, in particular for me, because I'm the resident circuit judge in Jefferson County, my job is a lot of administrative work. So, for example, I assign all of the dockets to the judges who come to Jefferson County to work. We are in the 2nd Judicial Circuit, which includes 12 counties in southern Illinois. It's actually a really huge geographic area. Includes Franklin County as well, or that's the other larger county that is in our circuit. Basically, when they come to Jefferson County, I tell them which dockets they're going to do, and then if we actually have a lot of mail from the prison that comes in from prisoners. I'm supposed to take care of that. Any other letters or filings that come into the circuit clerk's office that they're not sure what to do with those documents, they send them up to me and I take care of them. And then I actually have several dockets myself. I do a criminal docket. So if someone's charged with a crime and they come into the courtroom, I handle all of those proceedings that go on with those types of cases. I also am the juvenile delinquent docket judge. So I handle all of the crimes that are committed by juveniles, anyone under the age of 18 in Jefferson County. And then I also am the drug court judge in Jefferson County and the drug court judge in Wayne County, which is in Fairfield, Illinois. There's a certain process that cases go through. Criminal cases, you have a first advisement, which is basically when we go through all of the rights that someone has. We ask them what they want to do about an attorney. If they're in custody, we tell them what their bond setting is, and we tell them how they can be released so they understand that. And then we set it for an arraignment. And an arraignment, they either plead guilty or not guilty, and then we can either go through all of those rights with them again and the charge and the penalties associated with that, or they can waive that and plead guilty or plead not guilty. If they plead not guilty, it usually proceeds to a pretrial where the attorneys actually have further negotiations in the case to see if they can come up with an agreement in the case, or someone pleads guilty. And then I go through a guilty plea advisement with them and explain all their rights that they're waiving, and then their appeal rights also if for some reason they would change their mind. The thing I love the most about my work is drug court. And the reason I love drug court so much is because we take people who are high risk, high need, just meaning that they scored a certain, meaning basically it's not a subjective determination whether we accept someone into drug court. And And once we make those determinations through a substance abuse assessment and a social background and history, and then we see if we think that this person is willing to work on this problem of addiction, then we decide whether we're going to accept them into drug court. And then once we accept them into drug court, they are on probation for 30 months. It's a pretty long period of time. Most of these people are people who are, all of these people would be people who are charged with a non-violent, non-sex offender type charge. And they're people who've been in and out of prison for a really long time, usually, due to substance abuse issues. It's just really rewarding to give someone a plan and a path to go down where they have never had anyone be able to support them and show them what they need to do to get out of addiction and that lifestyle, and to see them just grow and bloom and able to hold a job and take care of their children and pay their taxes and really become a productive citizen in the community. That cycle of going to prison and the cycle of addiction in their family oftentimes stops with them. And then they stop committing crime too. I've only had one person in all of the graduations that we've had in Jefferson County who has reoffended and been charged with another felony offense. So I think that that's a great program, and we started that in 2013, and it's probably the most rewarding thing I do and the thing I'm the most interested in. If you're going to be a lawyer, I think you have to be a person who likes to argue. You have to be a person who likes to take up a cause and make your argument. You have to be someone who is able and willing to do a lot of research and a lot of work before you make those arguments so that you can do that intelligently. You have to like conflict. You can't be a person who does not like conflict because you're constantly engaged in conflict as a lawyer. As a judge, your role is much different. Your role is that of peacemaker, and you're the person who settles the issue that you have before you. And I think one of the most important skills for a judge to have would be good social skills with all kinds of different people, from the poorest person who is, basically stymied their entire life because of addiction, all the way up to somebody who is really well off, who has a civil matter up here potentially, where there's a lot of money at stake. And you have to be able to handle all types of people, all different kinds of personalities. You have to be able to be someone who doesn't get angry and who is able to keep your composure. We have a lot of sad things that happen. It wouldn't look real great if a judge is sitting up here crying, so you have to be a person who's able to handle your emotions also. And I think those are probably the most important skills for someone to have for a judge. And that you're able to be fair and impartial, obviously, too. It looks really easy to sit up here in a black robe and make these kinds of decisions. And I think that if you're considering being a judge, you need to understand that the job is a lot more difficult than it looks like it is from the outside looking in. My daughter told me one time, your job is one of those jobs that's more glamorous from the outside looking in, because she kind of understands some of the struggles that you have as a judge in making some of the decisions that you make. You want to make sure sometimes that someone is punished for what they've done, but you also want to make sure that you don't punish them so much that you ruin their life, when they come out of prison in a few years, and that they're able to rehabilitate when they come out and it hasn't just completely ruined them. I think one of the most important things that they would be able to do that would help them determine whether this is something they would like is to come to the courthouse. The proceedings are open to the public. Everything except juvenile proceedings are open to the public. So if you wanted to come to the courthouse, you would be able to sit in the courtroom and watch the judge and watch the lawyers, watch the people that they represent in civil and criminal matters, either one. You could watch lawyers from the state's attorney's office argue and prosecute people. You could watch people from the public defender's office defend someone's rights that they have in the courtroom. And then you could also watch civil attorneys argue civil matters also. And I think that probably if you were up here for 2 or 3 weeks, you would get a really good idea if it was something that you thought you might be interested in, rather than just reading something online or reading a book. I think just actually being here in person and seeing what goes on probably would give you a better understanding of whether it's some type of work that you think you would enjoy. I do think it's really different in person than it is, like a real proceeding is very different than mock trial, but that's a great start. You can actually get up and argue as a lawyer and see if you think you would like doing that. Also, youth and government. I know Mount Vernon High School has a really strong youth and government program. I was actually involved in that when I was in high school, and I really enjoyed it. You learn about what, the duties of a page and the duties of a lobbyist, and then the duties of a senator or a person who's a representative for the state of Illinois. Like I said, it's kind of the same kind of thing. There's nothing like actually doing that to see if it's something you think you would enjoy. I actually went to field grade school, Mount Vernon High School, and then I went to Rend Lake College for a year, and then I transferred to University of Illinois. One of the big things I like for people to understand is, I told earlier a little bit about the education of my parents. There are a lot of people going to college for the first time, and the big thing I like to encourage people to understand is I feel like a lot of people think that they can't do something because maybe they're the first person in their family to go to college. Well, I was the first person in my family to go to college. If I hadn't been willing to take that risk, I wouldn't have been able to do all of these great things and have these wonderful jobs that I've had over the years. I started out being an attorney for the state appellate prosecutor, and I did that after I did an internship at the Jefferson County Courthouse under the state's attorney at that time, Kathleen Alling. So I started working for the state appellate prosecutor. They do all of the appeals for 37 counties in southern Illinois for the state's attorneys. So you're actually prosecuting cases on appeal at the appellate court in Mount Vernon, Illinois. And just so you understand, when I talk about appellate, the 5th District covers the 37 counties in southern Illinois. So if you're talking about the appellate court in Mount Vernon, or the state's attorney's appellate prosecutor in Mount Vernon, or the state appellate defender, which is in Mount Vernon, and what that means is if a case is appealed by the state's attorney, they take care of that case. If it's appealed by the state appellate defender, then they respond to that case. It's all done in Mount Vernon, Illinois. A lot of people don't realize that, but it is. So I started out doing that, and I prosecuted a lot of sex crimes when I worked for the appellate prosecutor. Then I worked for appellate court judges, where I actually was able to take the role of a judge and write opinions for judges on appeal. I did that for quite some time. And then I also worked as one of the associate general counsels at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. And after that, I was the deputy of the State Appellate Defender's Office in Mount Vernon. When I had that job, that's when I ran for resident circuit judge in Jefferson County. The last thing I would like to say is, when you run for state's attorney or for a judicial position or any other kind of position where you are elected, I think it's really important for people to know that it looks really easy from the outside to do something like that. It's actually very difficult, and it's very hard on your family. Hard on you too if you do it like you should. Really you should go door to door and knock on people's doors and ask them to vote for you. And you're typically doing this after you've worked all day at a job. I think anyone can do it if you want to work hard enough to do it, but you need to understand there are a lot of other things that go along with that. And it's really hard work, but I think that you can do it if it's something that you really aspire to do. And I think I'm a really good example of someone that did something like that, and hopefully a good example for you to see that you could do something like that too if that's what you want to do.
If you are interested in a career in government and public administration, Rend Lake College is here to help you prepare with programs to develop the knowledge and skills needed. RLC has transfer degree programs such as Political Science Associate of Arts degree, History Associate of Arts degree,